It's my nerd world, and welcome to it, a Star Wars podcast. And on this week's show, jam-packed, filled with all of the news that came out in the absence of Celebration 2020th week. But wait, John, there wasn't any news. Well, there were a few things, but yeah, for the most part, there wasn't any news. I'm going to give you my take. I'm going to give you my hot take on why Celebration Week did not go down the way that it was supposed to go down, and certainly the way I thought that it was going to go down, because it didn't go down in the first place. We'll talk a little bit about the toxic fandom. This is going to get into a few listener feedback comments and emails that I received, and talk about a couple other shows and interviews done with content creators of Star Wars that I wanted to share with you. And it kind of applies to the conversation about the spoiled fandom. I'll keep it somewhat positive, but there definitely needs to be some tough love talked about on the show this week. Speaking of the show this week, it is brought to you by Zone. 1 million users united with one mission: to take back social media. Now, with your help, Zone will take billions from today's social media giants and give it back to the users. That's you. You see, I'm concerned about the increasing amount of censorship that's happening on social media right now, and that's why I'm a part of Zone. It's a brand new social media outlet that's launching really soon, and it's revolutionary. It is an all-in-one social media alternative, and this eliminates the need for the social media giants. With one profile, you're able to go and create multiple zones using different avatars that suit your online persona needs. You can become a Zone ambassador. It's free for a limited time, and you'll get increased influence as well as a variety of other advantages. Plus, Zone is user-owned. Anyone can invest and own more of the Zone platform, and at very little cost. But don't wait, because the zones claimed first are going to carry more influence. Zone launches soon, so join me and claim your zone today at ourzone.zone. That's O-U-R zone.zone. Now, let's get on to this week's show.
Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My nerd world.
Just let it in.
I'm your host, Jon Justice, and I'm glad you're with the show this week. I've been on vacation all week long. I get back on the air on Monday, so this is a nice little precursor to getting back behind the microphone. I actually did a show yesterday, and for those that don't know, I launched a new show devoted specifically to the science fiction subgenre of space operas. So it's a podcast where I can talk about my love of science fiction and space operas and not devote it all to Star Wars. So every week I will pick a particular space opera movie and talk about it, give some behind the scenes and making of, talk about the genre, upcoming projects. And so over the course of the past 2 weeks, we've talked about the new Ridley Scott HBO show, Raised by Wolves. We talked about Jupiter Ascending, and then this week was the cartoon from the early 2000s, Titan AE. So you can check that out if you're not already getting it on your feed. If you search for My Nerd World, a space opera podcast, you can find it there. For those that are listening, wondering, hey, John, I signed up to win autographed copies of your science fiction EMBARK series, and you haven't talked about it yet. I'm talking about it now. I actually have the Star Wars The Last Jedi tin right here in front of me, and it's filled with paper. And on that paper, I'm getting dust in my face. This sits on top of my Blu-ray shelf in my office. I filled the tin up with all the entries. So at the end of the show, after listener feedback this week, I will draw the 4 winners' names. 3 of you will win autographed copies of EMBARK Book 1, The Great Evacuation. I've added a subtitle to it. EMBARK Book 1, the first edition of the paperback. And then the grand prize winner will receive a complete copy of the EMBARK trilogy, which will include the updated cover, all in matte finish, and the second edition in Book 1. So you get Book 1, and then Treasure in Darkness, and The Vanishing War, all signed to you, free shipping for everybody who wins. And so again, I'll draw your names out of my tin. Hey, that rhymed. At the end of the show this week. And I am going to be doing more contesting, too. So this will not be your only opportunity. I have some more codes to give away for audiobooks, and I'll be giving away some ebooks coming up in the very near future. So again, after a listener feedback this week, we will dive into the contest, and I will pick our winners. All right, let's kick off with what news didn't happen this week.
We are the spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down.
Except when you're not Disney and Lucasfilm and we don't get any new news. All right, we did get 3 things, which had me excited for a little bit because on Thursday, Star Wars dropped 3 different trailers. They dropped a Sims 4 Journey to Batu trailer. I don't do The Sims. I don't necessarily know what The Sims are all about or how I would do The Sims. I did watch the trailer. It looked interesting, but I have enough video games and movies to already occupy my time. They also released a longer new trailer for the Star Wars Squadrons, which comes out in October, the video game. And this would be a trailer for the campaign. Looks cool. Looking forward to the game. I already purchased it in pre-order. Okay, didn't necessarily need a trailer, but it was kind of cool. And then we got the trailer for the Lego Star Wars Complete Saga game, which looks pretty rad. Those games are fun. Apparently, it was supposed to come out this year. That's not coming out until 2021. And then we got a Mandalorian nothing. We got nothing. We got no other information. As a matter of fact, let me just, while I'm online, I'm looking at my internet. Let me hit the Star Wars Reddit leaks page and see if anything has dropped in the 7 minutes that I've done on the show this week so far. And no, there is nothing new on here. Again, there's the trailer for the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga Carbonite Deluxe Edition. There was a new an announcement for a new youth book to be released in the spring of 2021. Clone versus Droids Canon Illustrated Encyclopedia. Okay. There's going to be a Bad Batch DLC for the Lego video game. Okay. But then that's all that we got. I hate to sound like I'm acting like a spoiled Star Wars fan. No, I just really expected that we were going to get a whole rash of announcements this week that we would have gotten at Star Wars Celebration had it gone off the way that it was supposed to if it wasn't for this stupid pandemic. And it didn't happen. All right, so what does this mean? Well, I have a couple of theories. This is just pure speculation on my part, but here's what I think is going on. First off, one little clue always had me a little bit trepidatious, but I'd like to be positive, which is why I talked about it at length on last week's show, because I really did honestly think that we were going to get something. But if we didn't, I think we may have gotten a hint that we weren't going to. On the last shareholders call for Disney a couple of weeks ago, it was the new CEO, Bob, not Iger, the other Bob. Can't remember his name, Chapek or something like that. The new CEO. He mentioned on the call, that might have been Bob. Either way, one of the Bobs from Disney. He mentioned on the call that coming up in a couple of months, there was going to be more announcements as it related to Star Wars. And that seemed a little odd. Because sometimes, Bob Iger had been known to drop a lot of information on upcoming projects. We found out about the Cassian Andor series that way. We found out that there were going to be some Mandalorian spinoffs, right? But, this time around he made a comment that we'd have more Star Wars information at a later date down the road. And it did not seem to coincide with Star Wars Celebration. So, again, I think we had a hint that we weren't going to get anything big this week. I know a lot of people were talking about the DC Fandom that took place last week, and so was I. I thought that went off really well. Commenters on Reddit and Star Wars fans had said that it would have taken a lot for Disney to put something like that together ahead of time, and they would have been pre-promoting it. So it's not like Disney could have seen what they did with the DC Fandom last weekend and then in the course of a few days put something together. That wasn't the case. And even the Star Wars show this week just had a bunch of old interview clips. So what does this all mean? Well, I think it means, one, what one of the Bobs from Disney said was true. It's going to be a couple of months until we get more detailed information. I also think partly what happened here was there may not be much to talk about. Disney's in a pretty advantageous spot. I know as fans, you listening to the show, you commenting on Reddit, me, we want information, and it feels like we're just in this desert right now. But that's because we've been dealing over the course of the past 4 years with a sort of non-stop rollout of information and anticipation for various, Star Wars projects, books, video games, live action shows, movies. Okay. Disney's, again, in a good spot because if they want to starve the fandom to increase the fandom and the hype down the road, they're in a position where they can do that. Disney knows, and I think that's why they delayed the films for as long as they did, that the Star Wars fandom does respond well with the absence of material. And so far, the evidence has shown that putting out a lot of content didn't necessarily grow the fandom. Now, I don't want to wipe out on conversations that we've had numerous times on the show. I will be talking a bit about the fandom, but from a slightly different angle than what I have talked about before with that. Based more on something that happened this week, and I wanted to address something. Now, that being said, I don't want to go down the road of the social media aspect of why we have sort of the divisions in fandom that we have. I've said many times, and I still believe this, that this is just going to be the way of the world when it comes to Star Wars right now. Unless social media goes away, unless there are better outlets that aren't as toxic right now, you're just going to continue to see these types of divisions take place. Some genuine, some not so genuine, some disingenuous from individuals that just want to make up lies, and for lack of a better term, but it fits, fake news doesn't just happen in politics. It happens in IPs and in fandoms too, and it's toxic in the Star Wars fandom. The fake news that's out there and the lies that get perpetuated and spread around. There was one that I debunked like 3 weeks ago that suddenly started making the rounds again. I had people messaging me, and we'll get into this in listener feedback, of people that are talking about these items that I talked about like 3.5 weeks ago. It tells you how these lies, they spread like viruses, right? All right, so back to Celebration and what happened. Disney can afford to wait right now. My guess is that they were planning for Celebration, and they probably had a lot of things that they were going to announce at Celebration. But then, because of the pandemic, when it became abundantly clear that they weren't going to have Celebration, I also think coupled with that was, along with a delay in the feature-length films, another year to 2023. I think a lot of the stuff that they probably were going to announce this past week has probably been pushed as well. And if that stuff got pushed and delayed and there wasn't production and pre-production going on, then there's also, in all likelihood, an opportunity that some stuff gets canned while other stuff gets greenlit. So we may not have gotten any information this week simply because Disney and Lucasfilm are in flux right now, and they didn't have the things that they were going to announce. Now, that doesn't account for The Mandalorian, and that's the one that has me scratching my head. The Mandalorian drops in a little over a month, and we have not gotten the trailer for it yet. And I think Disney and Lucasfilm know that people are going to watch it anyways. It's different than going to a movie. We don't have to pre-hype it up that much. I was listening to, and I'll be referencing a couple different podcasts, the Star Wars Report and Talking Bay 94. Both fantastic podcasts. A few that I have not unsubscribed to, unlike other podcasts. But those two shows, they had some recent guests on. One of them was a production designer that worked on the sequel trilogy, and a bunch of other movies, but more specifically, he talked about the sequel trilogy. And then on the Star Wars Report, there was a guest on this week who had written the book about the secret history of Star Wars. And it was a really fascinating interview. I got annoyed with the guy that wrote the book because he did that thing that I don't like, where they don't put the, in my opinion, when it comes to critiquing and being negative about Star Wars films, they act like they're absolutes when they talk about their dislike for a particular movie. It's just a pet peeve of mine. But within those particular interviews, it spawned, what I wanted to talk about in terms of the main show and focus this week. Getting back to Celebration, as to the delay on why we're not getting the Mandalorian the trailer yet, one of the guests, and I believe it was the one on Talking Bay 94, made the comment that, promotion has changed, and when you go and promote something, you need to send people to something, right? And this applies more to sort of pre-promotion of things you're going to be putting out. Like with me and my science fiction stories, I've got the book 4 coming out, the Gon Corbin story that I've written. That finishes a story that started in the Vanishing War in book 3. So anyway, that's a long way to say that maybe Disney and Lucasfilm knows that they don't need to pre-promote The Mandalorian a month in advance. They can do it a few weeks in advance. It does, it didn't make some of these leakers look good, where some of this stuff changed, and especially now that it's been a week after the Fandom from DC that took place last week. So I just wonder if Disney and Lucasfilm don't have things to announce, because this dumb pandemic has delayed so much stuff. And so all we ended up getting was the stuff that got put out on Thursday, which was stuff that we were probably going to get at Celebration, right? Those three trailers and some of those book announcements. It's a bummer because I want to know what's happening in the future. But look, make no mistake, I say this now and I complain about it now, but the truth of the matter is there'll be a time in the not so distant future where we're going to be inundated with so much Star Wars stuff that I'm not going to know what to cover without making the show, sort of 3 hours long. So, as always, what do you think? TalkShowNerd at gmail.com. That is the email address. Also, if you go to mynerdworld.net on the contact page, there's a new form that you can contact. You can just reach in and just type in right in there, and it sends me an email directly, so you can do it that way as well. All right, let's move on, shall we?
This is not going to go the way you think.
This will be a slightly shorter show this week. Most of the conversation is going to take place inside of the listener feedback this week. There is one comment that I wanted to make in terms of a topic, since there's no news this week. And I'm going to go back to those interviews, and specifically that interview that was done on Talking Bay 94. And I actually went and found the individual's name. It was Kev Jenkins, concept artist and production designer for the sequel trilogy. Ken made a really interesting comment in that interview. And this is going to dovetail nicely when we get into listener feedback, but we'll start here. The comment that Kev made that really stuck out to me was he talked about all the individuals involved in creating one of these movies, and specifically The Rise of Skywalker. And what he said was really poignant, and that was everybody wants to do a good job. They all want to see this film succeed. Everybody, from the writers of Chris Terrio, J.J. Abrams, the producers, Kathleen Kennedy, the movie studios, but then right on down the line to every single individual, no matter how important or seemingly insignificant they are, they all want to do a good job and put out a good product. And it's sad to me that so many fans end up having this mentality that they're just in it for the money, or it's just a cash grab. And that's why these movies didn't work for me. And it could just be that you didn't like the movie. It could just be that the movie didn't ignite particular nostalgic expectations that you had. Maybe you didn't like the way the story went. But so many fans and so many toxic fans and the fandom out there and the fandom menace and the doom blanks and the Mike Zeros and the nerds of Den and all this garbage, right? These guys, they're so spoiled to me. And they take it so personally, and they levy their attacks on such a personal level, as if to say that the people making these movies didn't want to make good movies. Like Rian Johnson. Like Rian Johnson intentionally went out there to make a movie that was going to be divisive. Because he happened to be quoted once saying that if you're going to make something good, it's going to be divisive. And he's right. Often the best art is very, divisive. But the people that gravitate towards it and love it end up really loving it. But in order to achieve that, you're going to end up making some people mad along the way. So not to get too far off of the point that I wanted to make, because I've gone down this road before, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment with listener feedback. But hearing this individual who worked on the sequel trilogy and listening to him talk about the love, and that's what it is, the love and the dedication and devotion that goes into making every single one of these films, it needs to be talked about more often. The individuals in charge of making these movies and these TV shows and these cartoons, they're not out there to put out crappy product. They're out there to put out good, entertaining content. You know, we as fans have to go and decide and make a decision on whether or not we like that. That's on us. But some of the criticism that gets played out, and of what people are saying that they're trying to do, it just doesn't align with me. And the spoiled part of this comes into the fact that I watched the sequel trilogy this week. I watched, because I've been on vacation all week, so I watched The Force Awakens on Tuesday, and then I watched The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker back-to-back on Wednesday, and just had a ball doing it. And it was such a unique experience watching those two movies back-to-back, and the different feelings. And the different feelings they conjure up, and they really do complement each other really well. The Last Jedi is a masterpiece, in my opinion. But when you go from The Last Jedi and you get into The Rise of Skywalker, it's like, oh man, we're going on a roller coaster ride now. It's like we got all this great setup and this deep emotional story that had some amazing set pieces and action and acting in it, and beautifully shot in The Last Jedi, right? But it's a little slower. Right? And it plays out a little differently in terms of pacing. And then you get to The Rise of Skywalker, and it's like, bam, from the opening, pan down to the First Order TIE fighters flying towards the First Order Star Destroyer outside of Mustafar, to the slow motion of Kylo Ren laying waste to the Guardians of Vader's castle on Mustafar. I mean, and then just game on. It was such a great experience. And it's clear that these individuals in charge of these movies that make them, they wanted to make good movies, and they did, in my opinion. But the reason why the fandom is so spoiled, and a lot of it's just greed. Let's be honest. I have no problem with capitalism. I'm a big proponent of capitalism, but when you're out there lying to fans to get money and feeding off that negativity and toxicity, I don't know how you look at yourself at night. But if the 13-year-old me, if the 10-year-old me, saw Return of the Jedi, and then a year or two later was given The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, do you really think I care? Do you think that I would walk out, even if you were given The Phantom Menace, for crying out loud, do you think we'd walk out of the theater going, oh, that movie stunk? No, man. As kids, we'd be going, that was amazing. Oh my gosh, look at what they did. That was incredible. I just wanted to point that out because I do truly love these films. I really, really do. And I try not to make the decision and the choice, right? Because it is the choice to be annoyed by some of the toxic and spoiled fandom. But it just seems like inevitable where I go and I'll watch The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, and I'll hop online and I'll be going through and I'll see a random tweet that pops up of somebody still complaining about those movies. I want to play this clip. I played it before we get to listener feedback, but I want to play this clip for you again because it's really relevant to what we're talking about. This is J.J. Abrams' post the Rise of Skywalker release.
A vast audience for this. How do you deal with people, or how does it make you feel, or what would you say to people who don't like what happens, or wish it was something different? Is there a problem with the fandom that? No, I'd say that they're right. You know, the people who love it more than anything are also right. You know, we knew going in. I was asked just I think 7 hours ago in other countries. Someone said, "So how do you go about pleasing everyone?" And I was like, what? Like, not to say that should be what anyone tries to do anyway, but how would one even go about it? Especially with Star Wars. I mean, I don't need to tell anyone here. We live in a moment where everything immediately seems to default to outrage, and there's a kind of an MO of just of it's either exactly as I see it or you're my enemy, and it's a bit like magicians. You'd think magicians would all just get along. Magicians hate each other. Now, I'm sure there are exceptions, and I'm sure someone will write to me like, "That's not fair, and I hate you," and they'll be right.
Unshaded magicians.
I can't believe. No, but it's like it's a crazy thing that there is such a sort of a norm that seems to be devoid of nuance and compassion. This is not about Star Wars. It's about everything. You know, compassion and acceptance and allowing people to. It's a crazy moment. So we knew starting this, any decision we made, a design decision, a musical decision, a narrative decision, would please someone and infuriate someone else. And they're all right. And Chris wants to say something.
Well, no, and then your only compass, really, your only North Star is your heart and how you feel about this. I mean, we went into this movie knowing it was a love letter to Star Wars. It was a love letter to the old school kind of filmmaking that inspired George, Republic serials, Flash Gordon, samurai movies, all these other genre references that we love, and it's the stuff about Hollywood movie making that we love. It's the big mythic stuff that we love. And so we went into it sort of deciding that
I just love those quotes. And I think that's why I love The Rise of Skywalker so much. Somebody, and you got to forgive me for not grabbing it. I meant to put it with listener feedback this week, and then I just realized now that it kind of got lost in the shuffle. Somebody had emailed me this week, though, and had made the comment, or had provided me a quote from JJ, who said that upon returning to The Rise of Skywalker, he was able to do a bunch of things that he wasn't able to do the first time around. And when I watched The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi too, those are both films made by two incredible filmmakers who made the movies that they wanted to make. And it's apparent on the screen, and especially in The Rise of Skywalker. It's dense. There's a lot of stuff that happens in there, but it's awesome. It is such a thrill ride. There is no point in that movie that I ever get bored or it slows down or I want to, walk away to go grab, something to drink that I'll be like, oh, I can walk away from this scene and not pause it. No, man. With both The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, those are films that I always pause when I walk away because I don't want to miss any of it. And J.J. Abrams is right. The people who don't like it are right, and the people who love it are right as well. But there's a lot of money to be made of people who want to go online and spread a bunch of toxic BS. And that's really, really unfortunate. Which brings us to listener feedback this week.
I need someone to show me my place in all this.
And again, after listener feedback, we will draw our names for my Last Jedi 10 to find out who our winners are this week for some signed EMBARK books. So I got two emails here. One comes from Ben and the other comes from Kevin on Twitter. I'm going to read these both back to back because they're talking about the same issue, and then I'll give you my comments. But Kevin wrote this just this morning when I was out on my bike ride on Twitter. So what do you think about Lucas and Iger getting rid of pretty much everything from Kennedy's sequel trilogy? And what is your opinion of Kennedy getting booted from her Star Wars series for being too woke? Now, I texted him back and told him that it was all BS, because it is. Did a show 3 or 4 weeks ago where I laid all this out. So then Kevin responded and said, this makes me sad, ... and happy. I enjoyed them, but they did seem a bit rushed in some parts that should have been expanded upon, in my opinion. And to be honest, Kathleen Kennedy making her new series heroine the greatest chosen one is a slap in the face to Lucas. Now, I responded to Kevin with that last comment and said, hey man, art is subjective. Everybody is entitled to their opinion. That is not mine. Nor do I believe that Rey is the greatest chosen one by any stretch of the imagination. That's not really how I saw it play out, even though she did ultimately defeat Palpatine. But that's not what I want to focus on. So Ben also emailed me, and he included the link to the Cosmic Book News article, Disney Purging Star Wars Marvel Woke Agenda. And this was a clickbait piece. And as a matter of fact, I hadn't clicked on this one. There was a bunch of this going around. Let's see if I can find the... Yes, so the info comes from the future ruler of Earth, Doom Blank. I don't want to say his last name because it's the word for the male anatomy. Over at the Overlord YouTube channel. This Doom Blank is a liar. Doesn't know what he's talking about. And I laid that all out 3 weeks ago in that other podcast. A bunch of articles spun off of this one guy who made up a bunch of garbage online and gave the opportunity for other sites to create clickbait articles. All right, so that being said, this is what Ben wrote upon seeing this article. I saw this article and I thought it was interesting, not sure how true it is. It's not. I also told him that. I don't agree with Star Wars is failing aspect of the article. I also don't necessarily agree with the reason some of the movies have not done as well as Disney may have wanted was due to the woke agenda. But if the article is true, I'm fine with hearing that they are going to get rid of some of the woke agenda in the movies. I don't care if things just happen naturally based on what makes sense for the movie, but I hate it when that type of agenda is pushed and becomes an underlying theme in a movie. I don't go to the movies to incorporate some agenda pushed on me. I go for them to be entertained. Now, before I go on with Ben's email, I agree with that too. I also think that what happens often is that fans go and project a woke agenda where it doesn't exist. Just because certain characters get cast, suddenly the default is, oh, they're just doing that for diversity's sake and inclusivity. And that may not be the case. That may not be the reason at all. Here, I'll give you an example. And I know I talk about this a lot, but it's relevant when it comes to content creation because I'm creating content. I'm writing the 5th book in my EMBARK series while the 4th book is being edited. And it will kick off another trilogy, which will ultimately lead to a total of 7 books for sure within the EMBARK universe and series. That 3rd book is going to have a female protagonist as its lead. The main core characters will be there, but that first book of book 5 that'll kick off the trilogy is going to have a female protagonist character. I didn't do it for woke reasons. I did it because it's interesting to me. I did it because there's a lot of times where I find female protagonists to be more interesting to me personally. And I think that's the case with a lot of casting, whether they are casting a person of color or a person based off of their ethnicity that might not be the standard white person. It could just be the director's choice of doing that. So again, the agenda being pushed sometimes is blatant. Was watching a Netflix show on video games. It's really interesting, but that show clearly has an agenda. They go out of their way to find individuals to go and cover that don't really have anything to do with the core of the commentary in the documentary, except to just inject an agenda in there. And it's pretty blatant. I don't see that in Star Wars. Personally, I think that a lot of it is perception by the fandom that is looking for reasons to go and complain about these films because their own justification for not liking them isn't all that strong. Back to Ben's email. I also like that Disney is willing to take a stand when actors push back on fans. I personally would never reach out to an actor and comment on their performance in a film. It's just not me It's just not my personality. Mine either. But there's no reason for an actor to respond to fans' comments. It just looks bad. I agree. The John Boyega ones recently were awful. You may hate what people are calling you or how they are commenting on your performance in a film, responding back, and getting into a fight on social media does no good. It makes you look bad. You mentioned in one of your recent podcasts that you do not expect John Boyega to return to a Star Wars movie, and I'm wondering if this is one of the reasons why he won't, how he commented on social media. Yeah, I tend to believe that. Curious what your take is on this, if it is legit, etc. I hope you're enjoying your vacation, and too bad you're missing out on your Disney trip. Yeah, no, it's not legit. Everything that Doom Blank person put out there is a bunch of BS, and they're really clever about putting out information that's incredibly vague, so that if anything ever happens, they can go, see, I was kind of right. Thank you both to Kevin and Ben, though. I appreciate your comments. All right, let's move over to a friend of the show, Howard. I found this little tidbit at my local Target here in Vegas, and I thought I'd share so you can keep an eye out for it. It was the Black Series Chilota, the child. It includes a frog, a bowl, and the knob from Djarin's cockpit on the Razor Crest. Best wishes to you and your family after your loss. That would be of my beloved Bella, who I missed deeply this week. I hope you are healthy and well. I am. Just sad. I miss my dog. Yeah, and I actually saw the child Black Series at the store recently, and I almost picked it up, but Melinda was with me, and I didn't feel like getting the eye roll, so I didn't. I am going to go out, though, as soon as I'm done with the show this today, and I'm actually going to head over to some antique shops and do a little Star Wars antiquing. It's been several months, well, actually more than that, maybe almost a year now since we went down there, and I found some gems, and I figured with the pandemic going on and people perhaps wanting to sell some of their Star Wars stuff, I might actually stumble across some cool stuff, so I'm going to go do that as soon as the show's done today. Owen Dowd wrote this, and thank you, Owen, for the contact. Hey, man, love the show. Super happy I found it. It's nice to hear a positive perspective on things. Can't wait for future episodes. I do have a quick question for you. It's great to hear someone else's enthusiasm over a film like The Rise of Skywalker. When I found your channel, it just made me so ecstatic. Obviously, you're a huge fan of Star Wars like me, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think they will ever put all the forgotten Star Wars media onto a platform such as Disney+? I'm talking about the things like the Ewok films and the droids, especially the holiday special. I have not seen all of these, and I know that they are often considered subpar or cash grabs or whatever, but I don't care. I simply love Star Wars and just want to experience it all. Again, love the show, and I hope you hear your thoughts on this. Thank you for your time. May the Force be with you. Thank you, Owen. I appreciate it. I don't expect we're going to see the holiday special being released on anything anytime soon. We are getting the Lego holiday special, which looks like it's going to be a lot of fun come this December. In terms of the Ewok films and droids, I honestly think a lot of this has to just do with the quality of the content. There might be some licensing issues involved with them as well, depending on what Disney and Lucasfilm own and what they don't own. I would imagine that Disney's probably gotten the rights back to most of this. But when it comes to the Ewok films and the droids cartoons, I would imagine those would have to be put through some type of processing to get them up to quality standards to be put on Disney+. And Disney is very guarded about what content they want to put out there. Maybe they'll see the light of day someday, but if Disney is looking at putting out new content or driving people to the Disney Plus app, I wonder if they're looking at, old content like the Ewok films and droids and saying, well, there's no real reason to spend the money to upgrade those to put them up to our standards on the Disney Plus app, because not enough people apart from hardcore fans are going to want to watch them. So never say never, except for the holiday special. I doubt that we'll ever see an official release. The Ewok films and droids, perhaps eventually, but they may end up going the same way as Genndy Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, and those cartoons that I love and have the DVDs for, that I wish that they would put on the Disney Plus app, but they run contrary to the Clone Wars that we've all come to know, the 3D animated special and animated special series, excuse me. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. You're not the first person to ask that, and I know that people are clamoring for that kind of content. But I just don't see Disney putting it on anytime soon, just because of the work involved to make it Disney Plus quality. Thank you, though, Owen. I'm glad you found the show. All right, let's go and talk with Jen G, who says this. Yes, Disney/Star Wars have definitely got to step up their game and give us something. DC did really well last weekend. I think I'll watch The Mandalorian again to help it along. Yeah, I know. I don't know why we... I'm sure that Mandalorian trailer is coming soon. You know what? I'm still online. Let me look again. Refresh. Star Wars Reddit leaks page. And is there anything... No, nothing new. All right. So there you go. Live on the show. One more, and then we'll draw our winners for the contest this week. Friend of the show, Miranda Alicia, said this. Random fun fact. The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, no question about it, have been and continue to be, and probably will be for all of eternity, the most talked about Star Wars movies in the history of the world and fandom. That is a fact. Everything that gets said is opinion mostly. She's right. And the reason why that is because of the social media world that we live in my opinion. You've got beloved content that made, that really did craft a lot of people's lives, changed a lot of people's lives forever. And the ability now to go online and to just blah, blah, blah anonymously or to make money on YouTube, that's the world that we live in now. And when it comes to The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi being the last stories in the Skywalker saga, that was bound to happen. And Miranda's right. I think other content coming out isn't going to have that type of expectation attached to it, so it probably will not be talked about nearly as much as those two films, both of which I love. As a matter of fact, if I have time today before my NASCAR Daytona race starts, I may actually watch The Rise of Skywalker again because the wife is out of town and the boy is out flying, and I can do that because I'm an adult. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your listener feedback this week. TalkShowNerd at gmail.com. TalkShowNerd at gmail.com. And you can email me and let me know what you think. I'm sorry. I'm getting myself squared away because it's time to give away stuff.
When I found you, I saw raw, untamed power. And beyond that, something truly special.
I am Jon Justice, and I write science fiction space opera novels because I love Star Wars. That really is the truth. The books are great for all ages. A science fiction adventure set in the future with a boy, a Star Wars and Depeche Mode fan, in love with a girl in the middle of the apocalypse. That's the first book. Book 2, they survived a planet-wide evacuation on Earth, and now Taft and his friends on a far-off world must unravel the mystery of a lethal threat to their new way of life. That is Treasure in Darkness. And Book 3, The Vanishing War, the only way the Raider Alliance can stop a ruthless galactic dictator is with the truth. The question is, will humanity on a far-off galaxy believe them? Intriguing, isn't it? All right, so I have books to give away. Thank you to everybody who entered this week. There was quite a few. More than I expected, which was really cool. I was glad. So I have 3 autographed copies that I will sign to you, free shipping on all the books. 3 copies of EMBARK Book 1, the first edition, with the original cover, to give away. And then the grand prize, which will be a complete signed trilogy, the complete set of the 3 books in the EMBARK trilogy. And that will be the second edition with the new updated cover that includes Taft, Ven, Katha, Jabet, and Ashley. So first what we'll do is we will draw the 3 names for the signed first edition Book 1 paperbacks. And our first winner is Michael Angeli. Michael Angeli, you've got yourself a copy of Book 1 signed in paperback. Let's see. Signed Book 1 number 2 goes to Scott Pride, P-R-Y-D. Am I saying that right? Scott Pride. You got yourself an autographed Book 1 of EMBARK. And the last Book 1 signed will go to, I'm digging around, and Keith Sevry, S-E-V-R-E, Keith Sevry. All right, so Keith, Scott, and Michael, you are the 3 winners of EMBARK Book 1 signed. And now we will draw for the grand prize, the complete autographed trilogy. I'm mixing it up. Can you hear? Mixing it up. All right. And our grand prize winner this week is Tom Stuber. Tom Stuber. Congratulations to Tom. You picked yourself up, and you will be shipped to you and signed to you the complete trilogy of the EMBARK series. Thank you to everybody who signed up. And again, I will be doing more giveaways in the coming weeks, but I really do appreciate all of you who took the time to write in. I really, really do appreciate it. And remember, if you want to support the show, the way to do that is to pick up a copy of the books. Right now, you can pick up book 1 in ebook for 99 cents. Books 2 and 3 are both $4.99 in ebook. Paperback is $13.99 for all 3, and then the audiobook price varies, narrated by me, but there is an audiobook available for all 3 as well. You can find it all on Amazon.com. Search for Jon Justice. The audiobook price varies depending on if you picked up a paperback or an ebook. Sometimes if you buy the ebook, you can get the audiobook for much cheaper. They also have some amazing trials going on where you can actually get the book for free for a no-obligation trial through Audible. So go to mynerdworld.net or to Amazon.com and search for Jon Justice. The books are great for all ages, from kids to 11 to adults in their 80s. They're fun adventures. They're clean adventures. They're exciting, filled with hope and romance and subtext in today's society. But it does not hit you over the head with politics by any stretch of the imagination. All right. So, again, congratulations to our winners. Tom got the grand prize. And then, again, Keith Severy, Michael Angeli, and Scott Pride. I will be emailing all 4 of you guys and looking for your email addresses, and I'll get those books out this week. Thanks again, everybody, for checking out the show. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to go toy hunting and enjoy the rest of the final days of my vacation. Talk to you later. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My nerd world.